To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not just their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy, art. Welcome to the Chiss Ascendancy podcast.
Listen, guys, this is a big one. We're not going to wait for the theme to play all the way through. Hello, and welcome back to
the Chiss Ascendancy.
You are listening, watching, and enjoying episode 123 of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. And Samuel, you want to give them a little preview of what we're going to talk about today?
Why, I would love to.
You guessed it. Episode 123 is finally the General Grievous. The General Grievous episode. So, if you have been listening, we just wrapped up our 18-part read-through of the Heir of the Empire comic. It was a great run. Kind of nice to be back to just whatever we want every week. So, it was very fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's episode 123, and we are dialing in on General Grievous this week. This is for my oldest son,
fully
Wolfie.
dialed.
That reminds me of that guy that goes, when you're manipulating time. You know what I'm talking about?
The guy that everyone makes fun of.
He's making fun of that guy that's like, I've got 4 days in a day. You think I'm an idiot? You're an idiot.
He's like, I've got 24 days in a day, every hour's a day.
Every hour's a day, yeah. When you're manipulating time. So my oldest son, Wolfie, has been asking for weeks. Dad, a General Grievous episode. Dad, General Grievous. Why not General Grievous? Hurry up. When you're going to be done. So, which makes my heart very happy because obviously General Grievous was one of my favorites growing up. Still one of my favorites.
Josiah's told the story before, but we used to go to a private school, if you can believe it. And they had advanced. The funny thing about this school is when we left this school to go to another school, I was behind in basic studies because they had like other advanced classes that weren't really relevant to the real world. One of those being computer lab, where they put those little sacrificial lambskins across the top of the keyboard so you couldn't see what the buttons were. So you had to learn how to type. It was called computer lab. And Josiah would get in trouble because every week leading up to the release of Revenge of the Sith would go and change the background on whatever computer he had that day to General Grievous.
Yes, I did. They wanted you to just have a uniform background, and I don't remember if it was this one, but you know how a lot of the Windows PCs is that rolling hill.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
That was Vista.
Yeah, they were. I don't remember if this was before or after that, but that's what I picture in my mind's eye whenever
that happened at Windows Vista. So.
Yeah. So, basically, this was right around the Revenge of the Sith 2005 era, and they wanted everything to be uniform. They had your little keyboard cover so you could practice your typing. I always took that thing off. That's why I still type like this. But
took that serious. It was a competition for me.
Yeah, I wish I would have, but I did not. So every day, they're monitoring what you're looking at on the internet. They're monitoring all this sort of stuff. I do have a funny story. One time we were in the library, same concept. They can monitor everything. And my buddy Travis, this is like 6th grade, and he's like, you want to see something cool? And I was like, yeah, what's up? And I had not been introduced to the nefarious parts of the internet yet. Mm-hmm. And he just typed in girl, enter. And you just hear this lady from the, across the library, boys. But in computer lab, I would stand at the door and like look at all the, because they wanted all the computers basically just stayed unlocked at all times. Mm-hmm. And, there's 30 or 40 computers in there. You look across and you just see a field of, computers, and it's like, Green Hill, General Grievous, Green Hill. And I actually got talked to like, Josiah, we are going to give you detention. And I was like, I can't help it. It's General Grievous.
Ask me, I cannot feel foolish, childish rules. General Grievous be on the line.
Yeah, it's General Grievous.
I did something somewhat similar, but a little bit more broad scope. When I was a TA in college, I would have power to change the background on like the lecture monitor, which is a little bit more important.
That is, yeah, pretty powerful.
And I would make it like random animals. One day it was a picture of Buddy, our dog. But I would be in the lecture hall as the TA and I would change it. And I would come back to the same classroom, different class as a student. And there would just be like a giant moose on the background with a teacher logged in. And I would just, sit there and revel in what I'd done.
Yes. You
And
could
then,
put some really strong political messages up there if you wanted to.
Oh, I was just being silly.
Yeah.
But they would be like, oh my God, who put that moose up there? I was like, oh, that's weird. How'd that get there?
Yeah, that's a beautiful moose.
What is this? It's a majestic creature.
They find out it's you because you start crying because you're happy about the moose.
If I hadn't wept at the sunrise this morning, I would be crying right now.
So we're going to dive into General Grievous. We're going to talk about canon. We're going to talk about legends. We're going to talk about his history. One of those old school Chiss Ascendancy podcast deep dives. First things first.
Lord help us.
A little newsy news on the podcast front. Obviously,
little podcast newsy news itself.
Yes,
it's a rare reveal.
It is a rare. So the podcast is about 6 years old, believe it or not. And
I do believe it.
We've been off and on, been more consistent here recently, been a lot of fun. And we just crossed the 10,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. And so we're very excited about that. So for those of you who listen and watch every week or tune in, friends of the show, friends of ours, family members that check us out and follow us and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we passed 10,000. So we're 1/10 of the way to go to get to our plaque. So once we get 100,000 subscribers, you get a plaque from YouTube. They don't even give you like a fake driver's license for 10,000. But anyways, so 10,000. So Samuel, I know Adam's probably listening to this at home. Obviously you guys have been a big part of this the whole way. So
Adam, if you're listening, send a picture of your boobies.
Ooh. So congrats to the podcast in general, to Samo, Adam, myself. It's been, it is a lot of work, especially whenever you already have, myself, I'm married. I've got 4 kids. I work a very demanding job. And this is one of the parts of the week that I definitely look forward to the most. So
it's pretty sick.
I wanted to go over this with you real quick before we jump into General Grievous. The Super Bowl was probably one of the worst Super Bowls I've watched in recent history. And
I didn't even.
I really didn't. Obviously,
not
being
because
a Houstonian, we were
care
one
that much. It was because I had to go to the airport.
We were one CJ Stroud away from making the Super Bowl and potentially winning. We'd never even been to the Super Bowl, but our quarterback absolutely crapped the bed, and we lost to the Patriots. And then the Patriots the next week played the Broncos, whose starting quarterback broke his ankle. So the Patriots barely win to get to the Super Bowl, and they just get absolutely trounced. Long story short, as a Houstonian, I was very disappointed, and I really didn't have a dog in the fight. I wasn't really that excited to watch it.
Michael Vick?
The thing I was most excited for...
Football humor.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
The thing that I was excited for was we had heard rumor from several different locations that we were going to have a Super Bowl commercial trailer for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So here's my question to you, and we'll just breeze through this really quick. I want to talk to you about it on the show. The Mandalorian Super Bowl ad, obviously you've seen it, right? It's kind of
I saw it live, and
yeah,
I knew you were texting me. You're like, hey, are you watching the Super Bowl? And I was like, well, kind of. We're playing cards. And you're like, there's supposed to be a Mando commercial. And I was like, I'd seen Mando and Grogu on the screen, but that can't have been it. It was like a Budweiser commercial or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
it. Was not.
That was it. And so I was like, oh, wow, they're really going all out. They're going to do a silly commercial first, and then during halftime or just after halftime, they'll do a serious trailer.
I sure thought so.
They didn't. That's all we got. And so for 30 seconds, I just wanted to pick your brain. Here's my worry, and tell me what you think.
Let's hear it.
We're only 3 months away from the movie.
Yep.
It's February. It's middle of February right now. The movie is in late May. So we're 3.5 months away. And I want to say that the Last Jedi trailer was a Super Bowl commercial or a Monday Night Football commercial or something. It was a football commercial. And it was obviously The Last Jedi has been very contentious, been very divisive, but you cannot deny that like the trailers leading up to it were fantastic. And this is the one that's got the first time we see the gorilla walkers, the ATM-6s. It's got Kylo. It's got Snoke's voiceover. When I found you, I saw raw potential.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I was just like super stoked, jaw on the floor, ready. I couldn't get to the theater fast enough to watch the movie. So again, I remember being during some type of football, but that's what I was expecting. And then the fact that it's the Super Bowl, it's the most, it's if I'm not mistaken, it's the most watched televised event every year.
Yeah.
It's the most that any like.
I think the only thing that's ever come close is UFC fights.
Yeah, but UFC for the longest time is like you got to pay to watch them, and you have
right.
And here's the thing: when we say close, it's the next closest thing. Maybe a World Series game, maybe a UFC fight.
Mm-hmm.
Those pay-per-views. Let's say that there's 10 or 15 million pay-per-views. I want to say at least at halftime there was like 150 million viewers worldwide. So there are tons of people tuning in to see the halftime show.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 100 plus million eyes watching the screen. If as soon as the halftime is over, thank you guys for tuning in, second half coming up next, boom, you hit it with a great trailer. You may have people who didn't even know there was going to be a Star Wars movie coming out who are excited. So I think my concern, I thought that what they put out there was fun. I didn't dislike. Yeah, it was cute. The Tauntauns, obviously.
I thought it was interesting.
But to me, it wasn't enough for a Super Bowl ad, especially we've gotten one teaser trailer and we've got 3 months to go.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just disappointed with it. Just a little disappointed. I really do. I just thought it was like, how we used to get, if you've ever been in Houston in like the last 20 years and you drove east on I-10 past the Budweiser factory, there used to be a really cool mural of Clydesdales, which was always like kind of the theme for me for Budweiser as a child. That's the only thing that mom would let us enjoy about beer and the horses. And one day they just like painted over it. It was just a blank wall.
Yeah.
But that memory has always been ingrained with me, like very heavily associated with Budweiser beer.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sponsored, by the way. And I really just thought it was like, because they'll do like crossover commercials, you know what I mean? It was very heavily leaning it. They had Tauntauns instead of Clydesdales.
Yeah. You had Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
We follow a force. And the more I went back and watched it 2 or 3 other times, the more I watch it, the more I'm thinking, you know what? None of this is going to be in the movie.
Yeah, no, none of it.
Sam Elliott's probably not going to be in the movie.
Sam Elliott's not going to be voicing it over like it's the dude,
Yeah. So I'm just frustrated that, what I don't want is, unfortunately, Mandalorian season 3 was a pretty steep step down from season 2, if you ask my personal opinion. And then from there, the hype of the Mandalorian has been not as much as it was in season 2. I liked season 3.
I thought it was interesting.
But season 2, especially with Grogu leaving with Luke and things like that, that was kind of, you hit a peak there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went down from that peak, and then Mandalorian all of a sudden has Grogu again. So that was of no consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or that's, kind of how it felt.
Hey, you want to see something?
Yeah. From there, you have the issue of, now we've got a movie that feels less exciting because of how season 3 went. So I'm just worried for future Star Wars projects, Yeah, that's sick.
It's the comic.
That is.
That's what I've been working on over here.
That's part 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grievous is fantastic in this. So anyways, that is my rant on the commercial. I'm worried about what that looks like long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I'm worried about and I don't want is Solo should have had a sequel of some sort, whether it was another movie or whether it was a comic book or a TV show or whatever. And whether it was poorly advertised or whether The Last Jedi had just came out like 5 months prior and people were still divided about that, or whatever the case may be, for a lot of people, people seem to believe that Solo underperformed at the box office, and we've never gotten more of that story.
Yeah.
We've gotten comics and stuff here and there, but we didn't get a full continuation. Darth Maul tells Kira, "Come to me on Dathomir." We never see any more of that. So,
question for you:
I don't want that to happen to Mandalorian, because Mandalorian inevitably affects people like Boba Fett, Thrawn.
Yeah,
the more important characters.
Yeah. Do you think that they're trying to like underwhelm us up front,
so that
so they can like undersell and overdeliver? Because I feel like a lot of Star Wars historically, since Disney purchased it, they've done a lot of misdirection, and I'm curious if they don't want to put too much on the table beforehand, so they just do kind of like a silly little teaser trailer to let you know that it's coming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It seems like a Dave move.
Well, here's the problem. The problem is that Star Wars ultimately is still owned by Disney, and Disney ultimately cares most about profit. And so if I was Disney, I would think, if we know we have a badass movie in the can, we're ready to go, I would get the hype train rolling, so that, because that first initial weekend at the box office is the most you're ever going to make on the movie. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I would believe that if any movie, I've just seen a lot of articles and stuff about how like actors in Hollywood are like, we're just not making as much money because a lot of contracts historically have paid into how much you're making at the box office. And that's just not where the money is anymore. Mm-hmm. So for me, if I'm Disney, it's more about merchandising.
But they haven't done any merchandising either.
But my point is, I don't think they're playing as heavily into box office hype up front, because they want to, I think they just want to have kind of an explosion all at once. I don't know if they want to burn out Bright too quickly or promise too much up front. Yeah. That's just my thought. I was disappointed by the trailer. I agree with you, but so I'm just trying to like, if I can get in their headspace, which I'm not, let's like say that they billion-dollar conglomerate.
Yeah. Let's say that they're doing what you think they're doing, and they're downplaying it, but so that it is like overwhelmingly good when you go see it with low expectations, and most of their money's going to be from merchandising and stuff. When The Force Awakens was coming out, there were trailers and stuff, but there was a ton of hype because they were doing a press tour and we were meeting all of the actors.
Yeah. Well, I think,
and there was like Force Friday came out, and like Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, everywhere had like a third of their freaking store. Like, here's a Star Wars hat, here's a Star Wars t-shirt, here's a Star Wars blanket, here's a Star Wars figure, here's a Star Wars. They launched, I remember I went, and I had just started my first like real adult job. Mm-hmm. And so I actually hadn't even started my job yet. I had a check from the place I interviewed at, because I went and did I went and preached for them, mm-hmm. right? Because I was interviewing to be a youth pastor. And so they gave me an honorarium, like to pay me to come out and preach.
That's nice.
And it wasn't a ton, but it was some money. It was more than I had.
Right.
And because I was still living at home waiting to get this job and everything, I didn't really have any expenses. Mm-hmm. And so I took that check and I cashed it, and I was like, this is my Star Wars money. And I had to choose like which figures I wanted, because I also wanted a t-shirt with Kylo Ren on it. And I also wanted a book. But I remember when that Force Friday came out for The Force Awakens.
It's a little too small for me.
Maybe just a little bit.
Okay.
You had Black Series was first introduced. You had the smaller figures, and then there was multiple books that it came out, you know? And so I don't know. I know that obviously The Force Awakens is kind of hard, because it's the same thing as like The Phantom Menace. It's a relaunch of an entire saga.
What I think is, for me, if it's a storyline, I'm already invested in the characters. I don't have to introduce any of the actors.
Right.
I'm going to be more excited to buy merchandise with something that I've seen than something I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get where you're coming from.
I feel underwhelmed by how much.
And that's what they want. That's what they want. You're playing right to their...
they want me to go buy things.
No, they want you to be underwhelmed right now, so that you're overwhelmed by the time you see the magnificence of what they're releasing.
But if that was the case, then that means they would be relying on the box office, which is the opposite of what you just said.
No, I'm saying I would be more excited to buy things for a movie that I have seen than a movie I haven't seen yet.
Maybe, but that's not how Star Wars fans work. Star Wars people want everything up front.
Okay, I guess I don't know what Star Wars fans want.
I'm just saying,
I'm not a Star Wars
collectors
fan.
In general. You're not a collector.
I get what you're saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not against you.
I hope that you're right.
Well,
as of right now,
I think
I'm worried
historically
for how the movie's going to do in theaters.
I think historically people have been frustrated with the misdirection and overhype, and I think that maybe they're just trying to avoid all that. You know, like everybody's like, oh, we had all this play into Captain Phasma, and she's got like 17 seconds of screen time.
Right.
We thought Finn was going to be the force sensitive one because he's the one holding the lightsaber in the trailer, and then we got Mary Jane, you know, Rey Skywalker ? You know, I think that there's just been so much historical play into misdirection, and
maybe they just want you to see it for what it is.
I think they just want you to, yeah.
Hopefully so. Hopefully you're right.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, because I think it's the only Star Wars feature film we've seen where Dave is heavy-handed in it. And I think it's going to be played a little bit differently because he's the one that's calling all the ultimate shots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, Kathleen just stepped down. So I think...
But the seat of power has been handed over.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you would think they'd... Kind of playing into both of our points, you would think they'd have a plan to, like, get people excited.
Yeah.
You know?
I think people are already excited. So I think the biggest mistake would be to... do what they have been doing with films, which is kind of misdirect the expectations.
Yeah, I think about, you know, this does play into the whole General Grievous thing. Like before episode, I mean, it's different because there was the third of a trilogy.
Yeah.
But before episode 3 came out, there was like so much like toys, books, comics, merch.
Well, you got to think this is also 20 plus years ago when, you know, revenue streams were just different.
Yeah. So I just hope that it's good.
I hope it's good too. We all do.
That's my worry.
I don't think one Budweiser trailer is going to tank the film.
I hope not.
That's what I'm just referring to it as. Everybody knows. Okay.
So we got General Grievous.
Grievous.
Officially, his title is Supreme Marshal Commander of the Separatist Droid Armies.
Kudar Mubat.
Which is pretty cool. So General Grievous, if those of you who are fans of the character, but you don't know the backstory. We're going to lean a little bit heavier into the Legends material here on his backstory because it's a little bit richer there. But there's lots of stuff.
A little wealthier.
Born as Kaimaen,
a little on the west side of 610.
Kaimaen Jai Shilal. Yeah, he is Kaimaen Jai Shilal. He's a Kalish warlord, and his Legends background is really spelled out for you from the Visionaries comics. And the title of that is The Eyes of Revolution. And one thing that's really cool about this is that it's written by Warren Fu. It's written...
Fu Manchu.
Colored and lettered by the same guy.
That's pretty cool.
So he wrote the comic, he drew the comic, he colored the comic,
That's
and
impressive.
He did all of the lettering, which is really, really cool. But this is where we get
what
the
a labor
story
of love
of Grievous as the Kalish warlord, right? Who is deceived of his hatred, convinced of his hatred of the Jedi by Count Dooku.
Brilliant.
And so basically, simple walkthrough. You've got he's leaving the homeworld of Kaylee, right? And ultimately, what he's trying to do is he's trying to figure out how his people can be helped. It's a really beautiful setup on the planet of Kaylee. I get strong, like old school, like Aztec, Maya, Inca vibes.
Yeah, it almost has the same. I mean, obviously these are worlds apart, but it looks like the Irish coast where Luke has retreated to if the architecture was also done by Southern American descenders or ancestors. Does that feel like a good?
Yes.
Okay.
And so basically this opening line, our appeals have been ignored. It's now apparent that the Republic and the Jedi favor our enemy. General, you are our last hope against the Huck or the Hook, H-U-K, in this war. May the spirits of our ancestors watch over you and your troops. And then Grievous says, before he's Grievous, as long as this old thing holds together, we'll be okay. His ship takes off. Long story short, a bomb has been planted aboard the ship by none other than Count Dooku.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
And he barely survives. Dooku asked to survive, and the droid assessing him says...
Right. It's pretty good.
The droid says, breathing, but unconscious. And so basically, Dooku does this thing that shocks him, and he says the heart stun will wear off shortly. Then when he awakens, he will begin to die. So I guess this shock that he sends over him essentially is to just pause everything. It just sends a shock through the system, and it's enough to get him where he needs to go. And so, long story,
Guys, giving
story
Ben
short,
Kenobi vibes.
they're going to take him to Geonosis, of all places, and he's operated on. I thought this was very interesting. It's one of those old school Star Wars Legends things that's like, that doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. Once he's taken to Geonosis, he's operated on by Sand Hill. Right? You're awake, my friend. Yes, very much alive, but your body has the same fatal wounds.
I'm curious if they're trying to do some sort of tie into the Plagueis novel here.
Well, this comic is from way before the Plagueis novel.
Is it really?
It is. The Plagueis novel wasn't until like 2010.
I must have misjudged how old it was. I guess everything Legends in my mind is like 95 to 2005.
Right. No, I get it. Here, I'll look it up.
The banking clan will sign your treaty.
We'll sign your treaty. But yeah, the
do you think he's actually
revolution
operated on by the Mune, or do you think he's just present?
I mean,
there's nothing really to indicate. Oh, look, he's got the little cat.
Yeah, the next two.
He's not saying anything about.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe the Geonosians are the ones working on him, which would make obviously much more sense. Maybe he's just there hiding. Yeah, the Eyes of Revolution was released in 2005. So we're talking like 5 or so years before.
The Mouth of Sauron.
The Mouth of Marilyn Manson.
How-to thing.
And then here's a very interesting thing. I feel actually really bad for Grievous in this version of the story because he's trying to be honorable. Like when he leaves Kaylee, he's trying to go find help in this war that his people are fighting against the Huck or the Hook. And then Grievous says, while he's in this tube, Geonosis, an honorable leader, dies alongside his soldiers. I order you to bring me back to Kaylee. He literally wanted to be transported back to his home planet so he could die honorably. And then, of course, Sand Hill. How touching, General. Do you really think the IBC would go through all this trouble only to let you die? You would not even survive a journey back to Kaylee.
Good thing they weren't called the Intergalactic Banking Syndicate, huh?
What do you mean?
Because then they'd be the IBS.
IBS, that's funny.
Now they're just root beer.
But
or cream soda, whatever you're fancy.
The concept is obviously that he's going to lead the droid armies. It's got to be hell on wheels to freaking go through all those procedures and everything. And then something that's very interesting, this kind of ties into the most like spoken about, and then we never talk about him ever again, character in the prequels is Jedi Master Sifo Dyas, right? Jedi Master Sifo Dyas ordered the clone army nearly 10 years ago. And they're like, I don't think that he did. But obviously, it was ordered by Sifo Dyas and then manipulated by Dooku. And go back one slide here for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Back. There you go. Dooku is hovering over Sifo Dyas.
Are you ready for your blood transfusion, Master Sifo Dyas?
And then it's really sad. The frame before this, he says, "How are we doing today, my old friend?" So Sifo Dyas is dead here, but he's kept in some type of stasis that basically keeps his organs and
What's
blood and
interesting,
viable.
With some hindsight from the Dooku novel, which obviously has no tie into this, he was actually really good friends with Sifo Dyas.
They were best friends. Yeah, that was...
And that's canon.
Yeah, Dooku's...
We're obviously mixing legends here. But
we are mixing a little bit, but that's kind of how my brain works when it comes to Star Wars stuff. Until I have to like say, yes, it is or isn't. Until they give me a better story than this. This is what I've been talking about. We need books. We get books and comics and stuff, and you go to read it, and it's like there's other stories out there that are better than what we're getting.
Yeah,
sometimes, not all the time.
Are we doing today?
But like, for instance, like Master of Evil, we talked about this at length. Like, the cover is Darth Vader in a crazy, his mask is all
I feel
whatever.
So vindicated every time I see a post talking about this book. They're like, it's crap, misled,
every
liar.
Post I see,
I feel so vindicated.
Every post I see, every video I watch, other than Alex from Star Wars Explained, talked about how it's like It was supposed to be a Darth Vader novel. Why do we get?
He's a Star Wars show.
And I understand the concept of, I don't know. I wonder, and this is, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or whatever. It's easy for me to be the guy that tells the athlete how to perform. Same thing as a writer, right? I'm not a professional writer. I'm sure that a character like Vader
I'm
is
not saying it was
to write.
bad writing. I'm saying it was a terrible story. There's a difference.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is I don't know if people are just intimidated of just tackling.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to write a book about Darth Vader.
I think it's just
I don't know how much of the process is up to them. You know what I mean?
I'm sure it's not very much. And I always just kind of had to assume in my mind that when it comes to bigger characters like Vader or Palpatine, they just kind of shy away from them because they're so afraid to do them wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what media always seems to go like the deepest into lore and take more risks and stuff is the comics. And I think because they know the hardcore fans are going to read the comics, they are willing to maybe take risks is the wrong term, but they're just willing to go like deeper into the story, deeper into the lore. They're willing to tackle things that don't make on the surface sense because they assume if you're here reading the comic with us, then you've probably read a lot of the books. You've probably watched all the movies 1,000 times. But Dooku is giving Grievous Sifo Dyas's blood. And I wonder if like you could get blood anywhere for a transfusion, right?
Yeah.
It's strange. Like in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, well, does human blood even work in a Kalish warrior? Right. And I think the concept here, and I don't know, obviously, I've not seen interviews or whatever with the author here. I wonder if he was kind of alluding to the fact that Dooku, or maybe even further up the line, Sidious, is trying to meddle in a little bit of Sith sorcery here and seeing if they can transfuse Force-sensitive blood.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the idea that, he's been giving a certain degree of midichlorians, which would have been,
pretty crazy.
Yeah. Especially because we've discussed already previous on the show. I remember a conversation. Plagueis novel takes place after this.
Right.
But that book goes into great detail about what is required to make a force-sensitive body.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to think about those two things in tandem, where you've got somebody who is a little down the lineage line from Dooku, but has been doing heavy experimentation. I mean, really, maybe 15, 17 years before this.
Right.
Not that long. Doing very extensive experimentation on what it takes to create force sensitivity in life, or rather life manipulated by the force. So it is an interesting thing to think about. And I don't think it's really been touched on very much, actually, outside of The Mandalorian, where we've got, some experimentation taking place on behalf of the Empire of what does it take to make a force sensitive clone. So it seems that there's kind of a deadlock between manufacturing life and life that is able to interact with the force.
Yeah. It's
almost like you make a mule and they can't reproduce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Palpatine is obsessed with, he can't figure out how to manipulate the midichlorians the way that, supposedly Plagueis did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, Palpatine ultimately jumped the gun when he killed Plagueis.
What's interesting is
he didn't have the key to immortality.
Plagueis kept it all in-house. Like he did pretty much all the experimentation himself, and Palpatine really outsourced it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because, Plagueis...
I mean, again, we're mixing legends and canon here. But.
Right. But, I mean, even just in canon, let's just say Plagueis is a canon novel, even though we know it, obviously it's not. But if Plagueis... in the novel, it's not even like he really ultimately learns how to manipulate the midichlorians to that degree that Sidious is basically lying in Revenge of the Sith that Plagueis can preserve all life.
Yeah.
Because in the novel, the Force, he does kind of like keep, is it Venomous alive for a while?
Mm-hmm.
And
to do further experimentation, which is pretty savage.
But it's not like he doesn't take him to the door of death and then bring him back to life, like what Sidious is kind of inclining to Anakin that Padme could have.
Right. If you're not familiar with the story, Tenebris, Plagueis' master, had a secret second apprentice,
Right.
Venomous.
Typical Sith.
And he was like, hey, you guys duke it out, see which one's better. And Plagueis was far and away superior.
Yeah, Plagueis wins, and then he basically keeps Venomous barely alive by trying to manipulate the midichlorians and things like that.
Also, this is after he's also already killed Tenebris.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So, obviously, he's given the Jedi blood of Sifo-Dyas and gifted him his saber. And then, obviously, you have this, he's filled with rage. And then if you go back 2 slides, this is actually pretty sad. So Sidious is checking in on the experiment with Dooku. Dooku says,
Master, the experiment has exceeded my expectations. His honor and nobility have been eclipsed, ... by cold vengeance.
And he's obviously
shaking in this photo,
taking advantage of his Dooku's taking advantage of Grievous's vulnerability here, and definitely like pushing him over the edge. He's calling him a droid. He's like, "Here's a gift. Say thank you, little boy."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's definitely pushing his buttons.
Unparalleled rage.
By cold vengeance and unparalleled rage. And then Sidious says,
I can
feel it. Beneath the nearly indestructible shell lives the strategic mind of a general who has embraced the way of the Sith. And then obviously you have Grievous kill all of the Magna Guards there. And he says, I am not a droid. Fears no consequence. It's pretty, infuriating for him because he's trying to save his people. And it's just, one might say he's no longer alive. I must note, while the mind subjugation was successful in erasing any humanity he once had.
Interesting term.
Mm-hmm. He is still plagued with vanity. I have noted a number of custom modifications to his faceplate and armor. These are things that Grievous has done to himself. I shall therefore keep a close eye on his progress. And then Sidious says, yes, be mindful of any problems the experiment may breed. This bionic technology may prove to be a useful tool for the dark side in years to come. I am not a droid. And so it's very, it makes me wonder, we see the big picture, so we know maybe he's alluding to how they saved Anakin and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it makes me wonder what he had in mind. Wanted to ask you this. What were your first impressions of General Grievous?
As a kid?
Yeah, just like whenever you found out about Grievous, do you remember, first impressions when you saw him, what that was like?
Jeez, man.
It's been 20 years.
It's quite some time. 23 years almost. It was just a cool concept. I remember being a little bit disappointed. I think that he was like most of the dark side allies, I guess you would call them in the prequel trilogy, which is that they're like around for an episode for the most part. Yeah,
the prequels did this weird thing where there's a strong dark side, ally, like you said, that is in all of the advertising, plays a very minor role and dies.
Yeah.
So obviously Clone Wars brings him back, but like Maul, same thing. A few seconds of screen time, very few lines, like 3 or 4 lines. And then, arguably the most epic lightsaber duel ever, literally between Maul and Obi-Wan, had to be slowed down in post-production because they thought if we play it at real speed, people are going to think we're speeding it up. So they had to slow it down to make it look realistic, which is freaking bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But then ultimately he's killed, right? Same thing. Who is, the poster boy for advertising for episode 2? Jango Fett.
Right.
You had Jango Fett with one pistol up in his fist like this and all the clones behind him, and they made it look, and I wonder if this was ever on the table because all the advertising made it look like Jango was leading the clones to an extent,
Which is a cool concept.
Which is a really cool concept, which he does train them. Like in the Republic Commando books, you find out about the Mandalorian, super commandos.
Well, and they've kind of got him on retainer at Camino as well.
Right. And
to that end.
Right, exactly. So then episode 3, General Grievous is the same thing. He's in all of the stuff. This kind of goes into this next section of the show, but first impressions, we got toys, we got, posters, things like that. And then of course the big lead up, the thing that they did for, and again, it was the end of a trilogy, so they had characters that were already developed that they could put out there.
Mhm.
But the Gendy Tartakovsky Clone Wars from Cartoon Network, those little micro series, really, really set Grievous up as like this unstoppable force.
Yeah.
And you had books like Labyrinth of Evil, which is Quinlan Voss tries to hunt down Dooku, and it's the story version of Grievous's attack on Coruscant that we got in the Clone Wars micro series. And in those books, and then of course Revenge of the Sith released the novel like a week prior to the movie coming out. And I just finished the novelization for the first time. It's like a whole different level from the movie. Like you gain so much introspection from every character.
Yeah.
And
which is always my favorite part of reading a book versus like
because you've never read the
media.
novelization, right?
Nope.
Dude, the level of hatred that particularly like Yoda and Mace Windu, not Yoda, but Mace Windu has for Palpatine, just as Palpatine before he knows he's Sidious.
Which I think lends a lot of credibility to the side of why he was so willing to be like, oh yeah, for sure the Sith Lord. It has to be.
Well, what's crazy is leading up to that moment where Anakin says he's a Sith Lord, Mace says it's someone in his inner circle because they track, in Labyrinth of Evil, they're tracking the Sith Lord and they're using forensics and stuff like that, boot size, walking through these tunnels, whatever. They're basically tracing Sidious's steps through Palpatine. They don't know it's Palpatine. And in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, they say it's someone in his inner circle. It can't be Palpatine because he already has the power.
Yeah.
So it's
interesting
they
reasoning.
Kind of looked past him. But Mace, whenever Anakin is like, it's Palpatine, Mace is like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's Mace is talking to Obi-Wan, and I posted a quote from this on the page's Instagram page, but they're talking about Anakin and Palpatine's relationship, and they talk a lot about how to use a modern terminology, how toxic their relationship is and how dangerous they are together. And Anakin or Obi-Wan says, Master Windu, I would trust Anakin with my life.
Yeah.
And Mace says, I know that you do. I just worry that we can't trust Palpatine with Anakin's. And so Grievous gets extra depth too. There's a moment where he kills a Neimoidian on the bridge of his ship because the guy's complaining and like second guessing him. And it says that he slams the Neimoidian's head into the console in front of him that it just turns his whole face to just mush.
That'd be so satisfying.
And he looks around, and I think this is when Anakin and Obi-Wan are on the bridge.
Yeah.
With him trying to get to Sidious or to Palpatine. And he looks around and he's like, the droids are fighting. Who cares about the droids? You got 2 Jedi on the loose. And he's like, he just killed his last member of his bridge crew. And that's when he's like,
time to abandon ship.
That's so
it's
funny,
in the
dude.
book, he's killing people around him, including his
it gives a lot of energy, like in not Master of Evil, Path of Destruction, when Bane is working. He's just a member of the Sith army. He's not a Sith Lord yet. And his commander is too scared to go against orders, and he's going to lead his whole troop into a death trap essentially.
Yep.
And he just like
This is
kind
when
of
he's
looks
part
at
of
him.
the Gloom Walkers. He's not even a Sith yet.
Yeah. And he knocks him out, his commander. And he looks at everybody's like, anybody have a problem with that?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, nope.
And he ends up getting in trouble.
Yeah, he gets court-martialed, but then the Sith
pick
Masters
up on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool story arc.
So another funny story about our history of General Grievous. So we were in the mall one time, and it was right around Mother's Day, and Dad was trying to get us to, we were each getting a small little present for Mom for Mother's Day. And we were at KB Toys, and I bought Mom, Dad didn't pick up on this, but I bought Mom a General Grievous action figure.
Knowing that she wouldn't want it.
Knowing she wouldn't want it, and hopefully she would give it to me.
Devious.
It worked.
I bet.
It worked. It was great. Great success. Okay.
That's
As
how
we're
I got a
winding
rifle.
down here, I want you to rank these 5 appearances by General Grievous.
Uh,
Okay, so for those of you listening, I'll read them out to you. So here, 1 through 5, and then Samuel will reorder them, and then I'll do the same. So you have Revenge of the Sith, which is the classic appearance, right? That's what most people are going to know him from. Tales of the Empire, that's one of his most recent appearances. Short, brutal, and sweet. There's not a lot of them in there, but the Grievous that's in there is hardcore. Okay. 3D Clone Wars, which is probably where he gets the most screen time.
Yeah.
All right. 2D Clone Wars, which is what our first impression was of Grievous. Different voice, almost kind of sounds like Clooney from the Redwall series back in the day. And then number 5, 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2, where you get to be General Grievous and it's hands-on.
Yeah.
So rank them 1 to 5 or 5 to 1, however you want to do it.
I'm going to go 2D Clone Wars top. So we're going top to bottom.
Okay. 2D Clone Wars is number 1.
Probably Revenge of the Sith 2.
Okay.
Into Tales, into 3D, into 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Tales, 3D, and then Battlefront.
And the only reason I am putting Battlefront 2 last is because it's really hard to do anything as him. As a Jedi or as a lightsaber user, because he doesn't have any force abilities. So
yes,
you're kind of locked in there a little bit.
Okay, I'll go 5 to 1.
Okay,
so I can reveal. Okay, I'm gonna have to agree. I was gonna put comics and stuff in here, but there's so many different comic options. But I'll agree. Battlefront 2 is the least of the disciples, meaning all of these are fantastic. But to your point, I haven't gotten to play the most recent Battlefront. I don't know if you can even play as General Grievous in that one.
You can.
Okay. If
you want, you can give it a shot after we're done with this.
In the 2005 version, there's just not as much like customization of what you can do with the character like you do in modern games. So, for instance,
you're pretty locked in.
You're walking like this. You're doing a power walk.
Yeah.
You have 2 arms, and then he does like an X, like crossing swipe is like his main offense, and then you have to be like in power berserker mode where like you're using your stealth bar to sprint for him to unhook his forearms and attack with forearms.
Yeah.
And he never uses a blaster. So it would be cool, like if you could customize it, like back in the day.
To be fair, I think
your left trigger was like a pistol,
yeah,
and your right trigger, if he had one pistol in one hand and a lightsaber in the other hand.
I don't even think he uses a blaster in the modern version of Battlefront 2.
See, that's a waste.
Yeah. I think you just have too much dynamics because the controls for a lightsaber character are different from the controls of a
but if you could
toggle it somehow, that'd
like
be cool.
In one of my favorite Battlefronts that's obviously less talked about is Renegade Squadron. That's the one that came with the white Darth Vader.
It was a PSP exclusive.
PSP exclusive. The story was very fun. It's set in the original trilogy.
You kind of liked the My 2K feature where you could make your own
2K character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the idea behind the reason I really like Renegade Squadron is because you get the chance to do a custom loadout of your character. So, let's say, for a character, you may have a chain gun for your main gun and there's unlimited ammo, but it heats up, right? Your secondary weapon could be like a grenade launcher or there's a thing called an explosive pistol. And so I would go with the chain gun and then while it's cooling down, switch over to my explosive pistol and just shoot basically like a fireball. And it just goes, it's not a rocket launcher. It just kind of lobs it. But the idea is like, it's going to create space and buy me time for the chain gun to cool back down. So if you could custom, it's not even custom, it's stuff he already does. But if you can make it where there's a pistol in the left hand and a saber in the right hand, and from far away, you could, and then as you get close to the clone with the lightsaber,
that'd be cool.
But that's why it's my number 5.
Thank you.
I will say, this is tough. Okay, so I've got my 2005 done.
If you don't put 2D Clone Wars as number 1, we've got problems.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
That's the best Grievous.
I'm gonna go with 3D Clone Wars 4th, same as you. Okay.
Granted, just before we got started, to get in the mood, we watched Lair of Grievous
Yep.
which I feel like is one of the better lore episodes involving Grievous and the 3D Clone Wars.
You get to see all the replacement parts that he has,
Mhm.
kind of like that room in heaven that they say exists.
The room of spare parts.
If somebody tells you they've gone to heaven before, they're lying.
So we get pretty good lore dump there, and I think they do a good job of capturing his petulance, but they do make him seem rather inept overall.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, maybe that's the impression we get from the films as well.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a switch up here.
Okay.
I've got Battlefront 2 as my 5th space.
Mhm.
My 4th space, I'm going to go 3D Clone Wars.
Mhm.
I just think that he's, again, especially the earlier seasons, is so kiddie.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the way that Dooku was talking to Grievous. Dooku thinks that he's better than everybody, and that's consistent across the board for all time. But just like
I feel like
Grievous isn't stupid.
I feel like he's intentionally condescending because the angrier Grievous is, the easier he is to control.
Yeah, that could be so.
And that seems to be the impression we get from the comics as well.
Yeah.
He's
now
intentionally
the comics,
goading him.
the thing that I like about the comics is that Grievous, you're seeing him deal with underlings a lot. So you see him as the dominant character.
Yeah.
Anytime Palpatine or Dooku is in the room, Grievous automatically is last place.
Yeah.
I want to see more of Grievous. That's why I know we've gotten comics, and I love the comics. I was literally reading comics last night before bed, but I would love to read a book or listen to an audiobook where Grievous is like the big bad or the main character that we're trying to escape.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got 3D as my 4th spot. I'm actually going to switch it up on you a little bit. I know this is the classic. I know this is where most people know him from. I'm actually going to put Revenge of the Sith, the movie, in 3rd place.
Okay.
And the reason why is because, again, because we're focusing on Anakin, the whole movie essentially, and Obi-Wan obviously is your secondary character. When you see him at first, it's him in the ship against Anakin and Obi-Wan with the droids there and stuff, and he runs for his life. And then you see him against Obi-Wan, and you get the cool, helicopter hands. But he's not the dominating character, which is what you want to see from Grievous as the main character of our episode this week. So I'll put him 3rd there just because he runs for his life and then he gets beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not dominating that show. So that puts me number 2.
One of the defining statements about Grievous in Revenge of the Sith is said by Mace Windu. General Grievous is a coward. He will run and hide as he always does, which was a funny line that we picked up on in college. And so if there's ever something that was emblematic of someone, we would say, as he always does, even if it wasn't syntactically correct. Because we thought that was funny.
As he always does. But yeah, I'm going to put, because the characters are so strong in Revenge of the Sith when it comes to Obi-Wan and Anakin, Grievous kind of plays a tertiary role, and I don't care for that since he's my main character of the story this week. So I'm going to put Revenge of the Sith as 3rd. I'm going to put Tales of the Empire, even though it's a very short sample, as my number 2.
Okay.
Because that is the most aggressive,
he's pretty baller, dude.
Evil Grievous that we get. You're getting a background story of...
and I also kind of hate Mother Talzin.
Yeah. Well, Mother Talzin's not in that particular
which is the one
episode.
Where he's is that in Clone Wars when he's out wiping out the Night Sisters?
He kills Talzin in Son of Dathomir the comic.
Oh. I mean, there's a
he is
story
killing the Night Sisters in Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
I mean, but Talzin's not there at the time.
Are you sure?
Yes. Because
are you sure?
Yeah. 100%.
Are you sure that's not because of why?
And then of course
I seem to remember there being spells and such cast while she's trying to run away.
There was. It's just Talzin's not there. Number 1 on my list, same as you, is going to be the 2D Clone Wars. That's by far the best. 2D Clone Wars Grievous is so good that it almost feels like, dare I say it, it feels like George fumbled the Grievous bag and how he was written in Revenge of the Sith. And then I wanted to go over 2 questions with you, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. First question. Okay. Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
In the novelization, especially, part of the plan is to part of the plan originally is for Dooku to murder Obi-Wan, and Anakin's emotions will push him over the edge, which will help turn him to the dark side. That's aboard Grievous's ship. Okay.
Okay.
And that's why Palpatine is so willing to let Obi-Wan die. He's like, we'll never make it if you take Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Obi-Wan dies by accident aboard the ship, it's still going to push Anakin to a deepened state of grief, which makes him more vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
In the novel, you actually realize that Palpatine kind of maneuvers things so that the council sends Obi-Wan to fight Grievous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a twofold thing. Palpatine to his face tells Anakin he thinks he should go because he's the most powerful Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And then having him be held back by the council is going to frustrate Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sending Obi-Wan to Grievous is the best chance we have of Obi-Wan again being killed, which will heighten Anakin's issues. He's already worried to death about Padme, and then his best friend dies.
Right.
That's going to push him over the edge. So, Palpatine at some point believed that Grievous had a shot of killing Obi-Wan.
Pretty crazy.
Which, it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
Right.
I just feel like it's a lot of misplaced faith if we've kind of seen the limitations of Grievous, and Obi-Wan at this point in time is one of the best martial Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mace Windu tells Obi-Wan, you're the perfect candidate because you've mastered defense. And what we learned about in the novelization, and in the Labyrinth of Evil novel as well, Grievous's mind, he's got his Kalish brain, but there's parts of it that are
It's cybernetically enhanced.
Cybernetic. Yeah. And
he's got the Tesla chip in there.
Yeah, exactly. His real Kalish eyes are
Yeah.
seeing it, but there's parts of the brain that are cybernetic that are processing it extra fast,
Right.
and then feeding his brain information of how to fix that. So in a crazy way, Obi-Wan is actually a better candidate than someone like a Mace Windu, or maybe even, Anakin's more powerful, but Anakin and Mace are both so offensively
Mm-hmm.
primed that they're going to offensively come at Grievous, and Grievous's brain is going to adjust to that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Obi-Wan makes you bring the fight to him.
Right.
And so he lets you make the mistake.
Right.
Right. He's like a counter puncher. So here's my question to you. So let's say Obi-Wan does die aboard Grievous's ship, or Obi-Wan does die by Grievous's hand, or the clones kill Obi-Wan before Obi-Wan can kill Grievous. Long story short, let's say Grievous survives episode 3. Everything else from that moment on, let's say it happens exactly as it happens.
Mhm.
Okay. Obviously, Obi-Wan doesn't fight Anakin, so Darth Vader is just regular Anakin. You don't have the black suit and all that stuff. What is Grievous's place in the world once the Empire reigns? The droid army is no more. Does he even have a place, or is he obsolete?
I mean, you have to kind of assume that once his usefulness has surpassed, or has been surpassed by like his level of threat, his level of concern,
Yeah.
you would think Palpatine would find a way to dispose of him.
Yeah. So you think it's you think that Grievous is very useful for his one role in the war, but once that's done, his usefulness goes away?
I think so, just because Grievous isn't really going to settle in a like distinct seat of power. I think he's going to want to be expansionist.
Right.
And so
Yeah, I don't see Grievous I
don't see him
taking
settling.
up an office somewhere.
Right. So, I mean, I think any other character that you can see, you can kind of imagine a world where they're going to be talked into stepping down eventually, or, just kind of phased out.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that with the clones. They're kind of pushed out, even though their whole purpose is fighting,
Right.
but they're no longer needed for what is taking place. So they're going to be phased out, and
Yeah.
replaced by soldiers that aren't as
I
organized or
could see
easily
a
manipulated.
world where that's one option. I think that's probably the most realistic option.
Mhm.
I can see a world where Grievous would become a role similar to like the Grand Inquisitor.
I
I know
think
he's not
he's
force sensitive.
too reckless to be in. I think the whole thing about the Empire is it's like cold fury.
Mm-hmm.
where it's calculating and it's, precise and it's surgical. I always think of Grievous as more of a blunt force object where his attacks are going to be, more head on. He's not as sneaky. He has very little subtlety.
Yeah.
And I think the Empire is fueled by subtlety and its cunning. It's emblematic of what the dark side was supposed to be, where Bane talks about we're never going to beat the Jedi in brute force. They just have too many numbers. So we've got to be deceptive. We've got to be sneaky. We've got to be
I think that the Empire started in the shadows, but I think that they're pretty bold and in your face once it's established.
But think about any commander who thrives in the Empire. Like you've got Tarkin, who is one of the most influential characters, and it's not. I mean, if you read the book, he's martially adept, but he's successful because of his cunning,
because of his brain.
Yeah. And the same thing with Thrawn. He's martially adept, but that's not what he's valued for. I think the only person you really have who's filling the seat of pure intimidation is Vader, and he's crafted to be that. And I just don't see him and Grievous ever being compatible.
Yeah, that's the thing is if he were to have a role in the Empire, it would just be as a killer.
Yeah.
And to your point, like what is the...
I just don't see a place for him.
Yeah. And the thing is we've not, especially in canon, I'm sure there's some comics out there that I haven't read yet, but we don't really get an insight into what he wants. He just wants to kill.
Yeah.
And obviously in Legends, he's kind of going off the pain of like losing his people, and he's a general that's leading a losing war as it is at the beginning of that comic that we read earlier. And so without him, probably they're dead to rights.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of him that's, and they've drained him of his humanity, for lack of a better term. And so all he wants to do is just get revenge. What happens? Because he believes the Jedi are the ones that did that.
Right.
Once the Jedi are defeated, what's his purpose?
Right.
He's like George
I don't
Patton
think it exists.
almost,
Yeah.
And then finally, I think this is kind of an obvious answer, and maybe you can tell us what you think in the comments as well. Last question of the day, and we'll wrap this thing up. Is General Grievous the most prolific Jedi killer not named Darth?
So I think you've got other candidates. Like you've got Asajj Ventress. She's up there in the numbers. You've got people like Cad Bane or Jango Fett. But I think really the only reason the answer is yes is because of opportunity. I don't think he's necessarily the best fighter against Jedi, even though he is incredibly adept at it. I think it's just he has the most opportunity.
Who do you think? So let's say given the same role, who do you think is better at it?
I really think any of the three that I mentioned could take Grievous on a given plane. So I think Ventress and Cad Bane would both be very good at goading Grievous into making a mistake because they're pretty cold. I think Jango can kind of get out of Grievous's range more easily.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And fight him from a distance. And I think that kind of gives him the edge because while Grievous is fast, he's not necessarily force sensitive. And I feel like you would need some level of force sensitivity to be that effective at range.
Yeah, well, when you're playing Battlefront,
but I'm also talking like one-on-one because the only time Grievous is really successful against Jedi is when he kind of has people to pester from the side, and not in canon, like in stuff that we see from Disney. You know what I mean? I get we have the 2D, where he's just pulling people apart.
Yeah,
but that's a very unique take on Grievous. And so, like even when we were watching Lair of Grievous. He was only really like Kit Fisto had him dead to rights until the Magna Guards came in and he was kind of swarmed. Yeah. You know what I mean?
In my opinion, though, Kit Fisto, there's a reason that Mace chose Kit Fisto to go arrest Sidious. You're talking about one of the top fighters in the whole order.
Yeah. But then again, you have any of those three who are giving any of the fights in the order.
Giving them fits.
Yeah. Because Ventress is she never even gets killed by a Jedi. She manages to kill or run away every single time. Yeah.
I think one of the differences between Ventress fighting a Jedi and Ventress fighting Grievous is that, of course, she has the Force, which is a huge advantage. If they just gave him some magnets to like imitate the Force, which I'm sure there's somewhere out there that he used that.
Well, he has his magnetic feet that he uses in space.
Yeah. I just think that like if obviously the way that he works doesn't make sense in real life, right? With the different arms and the cybernetic brain, that's his real brain, but there's enhancements and stuff. There exists a world where, based on his thought, the cybernetics turn on a magnet in his hand that could call a lightsaber to him,
Right.
Which would be like a huge difference maker. He can't force push, but he can pull just magnetic objects like a lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
In the Jango Fett Open Seasons comic book, Jango has magnets in his glove that he uses, and he pulls his blasters to himself and points them at Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that. I think like at peak of his power, full of rage, trying to kill you, I don't think Ventress could beat.
I think Ventress would be the perfect
Grievous.
opponent for Grievous if he's crashing out because he's so easily manipulated.
I don't know. I think
Ventress is very cunning.
I think he's more level-headed than you think he is.
I mean, he's killing his last bridge commander because he's being petulant. He is always breaking his stuff because he's slamming his fists in it because he's upset.
Yeah, I think that he's.
I think when he's removed from a situation, obviously he's conducting a somewhat successful war, but that's mostly at the prompting of Dooku and Sidious.
Yeah, he's kind of the face of the war.
But his whole character arc is that he's manipulated into his role through his rage.
Right. But you also have to realize he's manipulated by two of the greatest manipulators in the history of the galaxy. Ventress is also manipulated. Savage is also manipulated. Maul is also manipulated.
But there comes a point where Ventress gets free of it. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
I think she's significantly more cunning than Jango or Grievous.
I think that Ventress has things that she wants outside of just being in the war.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if Grievous wanted to break free of the grip of Dooku to go do something else, that's a possibility. I think that Grievous is easily manipulated. He does have temper tantrums, but I think that he's the perfect tool because he's the person that's easiest to manipulate is the person that's doing what they think they want to do.
Right. Well, I don't think he's Jar Jar Binks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
I think that Grievous wants to be exactly where he is. So
Right.
if he's like, hey, if you go here, there's more Jedi to kill, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Ventress has more personal goals. Grievous ain't falling in love with Quinlan Voss anytime soon.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I don't know. Throw a nice little cybernetic Gungan lady in there.
yeah. So
with little flaps.
you're saying, is Grievous the most prolific Jedi killer? You're saying yes because of opportunity.
I think it's a cause of opportunity. Yeah.
I'm saying yes.
I understand he's a tool crafted for the purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I think he's the greatest non-Darth Jedi killer via skill. I think he's up there in skill, and I think he's number one in opportunity because he's presented with the most Jedi.
Right. I do think when we're talking about Dooku and Palpatine, part of their craftiness is choosing the right people for the job. And so choosing Jango Fett to be the clone template, you got to be a bad son of a gun to get that.
One bad Mamo Jam.
Right?
Yeah.
Grievous, same thing.
Yeah.
Grievous has the tools. We just got to, manipulate his mind to get him there. Grievous, to his, what's what I'm looking for? To his credit, is never seen as, okay, we're done with this pawn. He's killed by Obi-Wan.
I think to an extent.
Ventress, Palpatine calls Dooku out, and Dooku's like, okay, I'll get rid of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think Ventress is almost like on the Maul level where she's become too significant a player and Palpatine doesn't want to account for her, so he tries to wipe her out.
Yeah, because Palpatine's ascended to where Plagueis was when Maul was on the table.
I do very much picture what happens in Revenge of the Sith to Grievous as Palpatine disposing of Grievous.
You either dispose of Grievous or you dispose of Obi-Wan. You're tying up a loose end either way.
Yeah.
And Order 66 takes place right after that.
I think he's very much throwing Grievous to the wolves.
Yeah, I can see that. You're also making him fight like the best fighter.
Right.
So, yeah, I think the obvious question is, yes, he's the most prolific Jedi killer. And I think opportunity does play a big role. I will say in the General Grievous comic, there's a comic between this one that we just read and there's a random one about a Wookiee. But then after that, it's General Grievous numbers 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote in there where they're talking to the council and they say, he has murdered hundreds of us.
Yeah.
So in the Legends continuity, obviously I know that we're blending here.
Right.
In the Legends continuity, he's killed hundreds of Jedi, which is crazy.
I think, yeah, that's wild. I think if we're looking at what we have now presented under the Disney umbrella, it's probably more realistically dozens. But I mean, the numbers are up there. If you look at his little, collection that he's just keeping on his person, you have to assume he's got more lightsabers elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, also when in the Lair of Grievous episode, he has that little lit up desk there where he's got a bunch of like Padawan braids and stuff like that. So we're saying in canon, yes, with an asterisk because of opportunity, and Legends.
And Legends,
hell yes.
Absolutely, yes. In Legends, the only person I think about that could have been a rival is Dirge.
Yeah, Dirge was a bad mamma jamma.
Dirge was nasty.
Yeah, and he didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's a little bit of a
already thousands of years old.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a deep dive
theoretically immortal
into General Grievous for you.
Yeah.
So Kalish Warlord, completely manipulated by Dooku and Sidious by proxy, and becomes the supreme martial commander of the Separatist droid armies, and ultimately just a pawn that's bigger than the other pawns on the board, unfortunately, completely manipulated and
poor
into
guy.
the will of the Sith, which just tells you how high on the freaking mountain Sidious is.
Oh yeah.
When you're manipulating, that look on the bridge or the room.
Well, you got to think he's like looking at the galaxy and who's like, who's my guy?
Yeah.
You know
he's
what I mean?
looking out when Dooku hears the words, kill him. And he looks, he makes that face. You're like, yeah, dude, you're not important.
Yeah.
It's literally Sidious against everyone else. So, but hope you enjoyed it. We'll be doing more of these where we just kind of break down different characters, different shows coming out, books, all that kind of good stuff like you're used to. Thank you for watching with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to where we're trying to go. Man, I would never think we would have had 10K subscribers. And so I'll never say never to 100, but it's a long road ahead of us. That would be absolutely wild, but it'd be fun.
We're practically there. We're practically there.
So like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And remember, I couldn't decide what I wanted to say. Remember that the Force will be with you always. I was also going to say,
and also, the only family you have here is me.
I was going to say, and remember,
army or not, you must realize you are doomed.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, pretty good.
If you go to the very, very beginning of that last of the General Grievous music, he says that right at the beginning of there.
I was seeing if I had a General Grievous laugh, and I don't think I do, which seems like an oversight.
So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.